There really was a lot to appreciate about Green Book. First off, and this should come as no surprise if you've seen the trailers or simply know who's in the cast, but the acting in this film really is top-notch, elevating every aspect of this film. Now, we'll talk about the script just a little bit later, but let me say right now, everything in it was made that much more impactful, sincere, and authentic because of the entire cast's performances, with Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali leading the way. Of course, Mortensen went and pulled a full Christian Bale, genuinely packing in the pounds to more accurately embody the real-life Tony Lip, a man whose appetite for food seems to be one of the defining characteristics of his person. But I suppose I shouldn't have started by talking about that man's physical transformation, because as distinctive as it was, it really did pale in comparison to the soul and spirit that he captured with this character. In watching Viggo Mortensen in Green Book, I never once thought of Nikolai from Eastern Promises, and certainly never ever thought of Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings. In very quiet and often unassuming ways, Mortensen has just continued to really impress me with his versatility as an actor. There is a very fine line that an actor must walk, for example, when they're playing someone as quote-unquote simple as Tony Lip, someone whose diction and vocabulary don't necessarily declare some sort of hyper-intelligence, and never once did I feel like Viggo Mortensen was being disrespectful to that kind of person or playing things for cheap laughs. As good as he was as a performer, though, Viggo really was made all the better because of his co-star and the chemistry that those two men shared. Mahershala Ali may not have had to gain weight to play Dr. Don Shirley, but he certainly had to learn a thing or two about playing piano, and whether or not it was a combination of that and some seamless VFX, I'm not sure. Regardless, I always completely believed that Ali did indeed somehow become a world-renowned pianist, one with impeccable taste and immaculate diction, and that really did come down to him and his acting ability. When that character really shone, however, was in the moments when Ali was required to portray Shirley's much more vulnerable side, a side that couldn't always be covered up by his stoicism, his sophistication, and his talent as a pianist. It really was in those moments that I was reminded of just how deserving that man was of the Oscar that he won a couple of years ago. After heaping so much praise on this film's actors, I would indeed be completely remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge the director's part in that process. A director who's also directed, wait for it, Dumb and Dumber, Dumb and Dumber 2, There's Something About Mary, Hall Pass, The Three Stooges, Movie 43. Yes, this film was directed by Peter Farrelly of the Farrelly brothers. I'm actually just a little bit bummed that I had to reveal that right now, just because I myself didn't know for most of the film that Farrelly was the one behind the camera. And I think that that really did help me to enjoy it all the more, just because I can't say that I've enjoyed a large majority of his work. And I'm sure I would have scrutinized much more what I was watching had I known he was a part of it. But I've got to say, when it came to the performances, as well as the overall tone of this film, Farrelly did make a lot of very smart decisions. For example, never once did I feel like the drama was being trumped by the comedy, and never once did I feel like it was distracting from the overall narrative. Also, even while the film clocked in around 2 hours and 10 minutes, the director was able to, for the most part, really do a solid job structuring the film, as well as the specific scenes themselves with their blocking and choreography, to keep things moving, interesting, engaging, and fun. The way that the opening scene played out, for example, just expertly established an environment, characters, and narrative threads, and then showed how those interacted and affected one another. It was just very impressively handled from a directing standpoint. Now, to get down to the overall narrative itself, Green Book was an interesting one to assess. We certainly find ourselves in a time now where films focused on racism and prejudice are quite fortunately becoming more and more common. And a lot of those films are just really well done. Films like Black Klansman, Blind Spotting, Selma, 12 Years a Slave are films that have dealt with that topic recently in very excellent ways, and very rarely, if ever, pulled any punches. They don't sugarcoat things and do seek to ensure that we, the audience, understand just how real, serious, dark, and scary racism and hatred truly are. And those films are so important and needed, and it's because I believe that I was initially quite critical of some of Green Book's, shall we say, hallmark elements. Just some of the ways that the filmmakers chose to craft the narrative, opting for the quote-unquote easier route by sometimes avoiding the more tragic and horrifying aspects of racism. Or, to put it another way, just desiring to be a solid holiday film, one that the whole family could go to and walk out of feeling positive and uplifted. But then I got to thinking, well, what is wrong with that? What's wrong with reminding us, the viewer, that there is good in this world, that there are good people in this world, and not all the time do things turn out horribly? Well, to answer my own question, what could be wrong with that is if we, the audience, walk out of this film declaring, well, There's the answer. Just be nice to the people around us and all of the world's problems will be fixed, because that's not the case and that's not how it is, and believing that could, at the very least, allow for more brokenness to persist and go unchecked. But if instead this film simply reminds us that there still is goodness and value in being kind to our fellow man, and that maybe, just maybe, not assuming evil and the worst of the people around us is good, then I think it's done its job, and a job that is good. And for all these reasons, I will give the film a 4 out of 5 and a heart. I would still love to know what you guys thought of the film though, so definitely comment below and let me know. Finally, please do subscribe. I'm going to continue to review films and television on this channel, and I would love for you to stay up to date on all of those things. But for now, I'm Chris Hartwell. This is The Heartbeat. Thank you for joining me.